Right. So we were speaking about the advantage of the Benoni, who is not a tzaddik. A tzaddik is one who has no animal soul, has no temptation. He's reached that level that in which he's completely in control, not just of his actions and his speech, but also of his thought. But there is still an advantage of the Benoni over the tzaddik because the Benoni has to make those right decisions. And by having those challenges that he always overcomes because, again, he makes the right decisions at the end of the day. But by having those challenges, he's able to truly devote himself to God, to truly make that choice that aligns him with God, as opposed to the tzaddik, who's more like on cruise control, and his dedication and devotion to God is not as intense or as deep, perhaps, as the Benoni, who really has inclinations, yet still makes the right decisions. So he's there. He's in it. The Benoni is in it really with these, not just with his entire heart and soul, but also with all of his fluctuating emotions. Remember, we used the example, and then we'll continue. We used the example of the value of a painting over the value of a picture. Value of the painting is higher because of all of the intense emotions that the painter puts in every stroke of the brush. Well, the picture is not just a picture; it's robotic. So the Benoni is like the painting. The picture sometimes is like the tzaddik, and therefore the painting and the Benoni is many ways more valuable. Okay, let's continue. Middle of 72. In as much. So anyone want to read?
I'll go for it. Oh, somebody else want to read? Go ahead.
Gonna say I don't mind.
Oh,
We'll
good.
jump
Okay,
in.
good.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
Go for it.
Inasmuch as that is this understanding in his brain and heart's recesses that is instrumental in leading him to engage in them, and had he not so delved in it, he would not have occupied himself with them at all, but with his physical needs alone. When
Right.
a person when a person engages in Torah and the commandments, at bottom he does so because of an inner love and awe of God. And although his actions may not light up the sky with a powerful display of emotion and may lack spiritual clarity, the fact that he is involved with Torah and commandments indicates beyond doubt that they are present and active within him.
Right. And we're speaking about the Benoni again, who has these inclinations, these temptations, and sometimes it's hard for him to fulfill the mitzvah, fulfill the Torah, and to put himself into it. And what we're saying here is that, again, action should always trump feeling. When we don't feel like it and we still do it, that action of itself can really redeem us. There's a beautiful line in the Jerusalem Talmud that says that a person should always involve himself with good actions. Why? Because hama'or sheba yachziro lamutav, which means that the light in it will bring the person to his goodness. And it's almost like I think Shakespeare said, I don't know, someone said it, I don't remember who, but once you've tasted truth, you can't go back because the taste buds of truth, I think that's the way he put it, the taste buds of truth are so powerful that they will remain in your tongue forever. And it's in many ways that's the case here. The Benoni might again have his own inner challenges, but if he devotes himself to that truth, to that mitzvah, to that Torah, then that in of itself will awaken something so deep within him that he will then have changed his feelings and line them with his actions thereafter. And that's why, again, when a person engages, especially the engagement in Torah and mitzvot, is really what eventually aligns us and gives us those taste buds of truth. Um, I just want to add just one thing. It's just an interesting idea, but so when a person doesn't feel like it, like you wake up in the morning, you don't want to do what you have to do, or especially when it comes to mitzvah, you don't feel like doing a mitzvah, and that is sometimes viewed negatively. what's interesting here, and you see this in the Tanya many times, is that actually it's viewed in the most positive way, more positive than if you would feel like doing what you have to do. Why is that? After all, your feelings are not aligned. You're forcing yourself. Is that a good thing? But the reason, as the Tanya points out in other places too, is that because when you're doing it for when you're feeling it, when you're in the mood, then you may just be doing it for yourself. But when you're doing it for God, and you even though you don't feel like it, then you're actually one with God. You actually care about the relationship with God. But otherwise, again, if it was back to your feelings, you wouldn't do it. So that's when your relationship is proven to be an altruistic one and therefore an authentic one. If you were doing it just because you're feeling like it, then maybe you're doing it for your own feelings. But when you do it when you're not feeling like it, and you're forcing yourself, that means you actually are doing it for the other. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it for God in this case. So in many ways, it's a higher relationship. It's a deeper relationship. It's a more authentic relationship because you're doing it for the other. So instead of viewing, not the moments in which we don't feel like it as negative moments, actually they are very positive moments because that's when our relationship with God is really proven to be authentic. That's just something to remember too.
On the other hand, Rabbi,
Yes,
you shouldn't have to force yourself to do something that is right.
right. That's true. That's true. But what can we do? We're human beings sometimes. And our feelings get the better of us. You're right. I mean, and that's the tzaddik who never has to force himself because he's always aligned. But the tzaddik also doesn't have opportunities to prove that his relationship with God is truly altruistic. But you're right. Yeah.
Hmm.
In Kabbalistic thought, and Tanya speaks about this, there are really two levels of relationship with God. One that's called itkafia, which really means forcing yourself and subduing. Another one is called hithapcha, which means to transform. Now, most people are never really fully reach the level of hithapcha, transforming yourself, in which you are a tzaddik, right? In which you live on this cruise control, where you always want to do good, you always feel like it. For most people, they'll always have some mode of itkafia in their relationship, which is forcing themselves. But I think it's a very powerful message, especially for these days, because very often they'll tell you you have to follow your heart, which is like the worst thing you can do, because then your feelings take over you, and your feelings should never take over you. It's your dedication to action that should take over you. You're doing your duty that should take over you. So we need that hitkafia. We need that subduing of the animal soul and forcing it to do good. The goal, obviously, like you say, William, is ithapcha, so that we don't have those inclinations. But when there's a clash between the heart and doing your duty, always pick doing your duty over following your heart. And that's really what this means here.
Rabbi,
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to I'd like to get some help on this.
Yeah.
And I think it would be helpful for others as well. When somebody needs a mitzvah done,
Yeah.
and I start, and um, I'll put it in myself, okay, and I realize that this is more than this is something I do not want to do, which talks about feelings. And the reason I do not want to do it is because I know this person so well that doing what appears to be a mitzvah is really enabling either bad behavior or dependency.
So can you give an example so that I can fully understand?
Yes. if I were to give you an example, it would be too personal and I would not
I
want to
see.
reveal it.
I see. No, I understand. So just to again understand what you're saying. If someone needs to do a mitzvah and you're pushing them to do that mitzvah, but that mitzvah, on the other hand, is enabling a bad behavior, then should they still do the mitzvah? Is that what you're asking?
Uh, let me phrase it and then we can agree if we're actually
Yeah,
saying the same thing.
yeah, please.
Okay, so somebody asks me to do what appears to be a mitzvah. I use the word appear because I'm not so sure it would really be a mitzvah if I would do it for them, because what they're asking for is something that would enable their bad behavior and
Mm.
impact others, and or it would
Oh, I see.
create a well, there's two sides to this, or it would create tremendous angst on me with sacrifice of
Right,
with my own sacrifice.
right. So that's a great question. So every mitzvah has its body. That's what they call it. Even the Tanya calls it levushim, garments. And when one does a mitzvah, or when one is about to do a mitzvah, he has to take into consideration the garments of the mitzvah, whether the mitzvah is clothed in the right way or not, right? You could say this for so many things. It's a mitzvah to rebuke your fellow. Right? That's what it says in Leviticus. But sometimes your rebuke will cause more damage than good. So you need to
Yes.
consider the garments of the rebuke. Is it going to really be clothed with love and with, I don't know, with a constructive tool, or not? And if not, then maybe the mitzvah shouldn't be carried out because it's walking around naked and too sharp and too appalling for others. So, or too shocking for others, I should say. So, so every mitzvah, and that's a very good point, what you bring up, every mitzvah should really be considered, um, not just once sometimes, but twice and three times and four times to make sure that the mitzvah that is carried out is really doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that is bringing good to the world and not the opposite, right? You know,
Right.
there's this Aris, there's this parable by Aristotle, which is a powerful one if you think about this. That if I lent a gun to someone, right? Now that someone has to give it back to me after 30 days. Now, in the meantime, I became crazy over those 30 days. I became insane. And now the 30-day mark has come and he has to return the gun. Should he return the gun to me or not? Because I've become crazy. So now, according to the law, he does. Because 30 days have passed, and after 30 days, you have to return the gun. But you have to also consider every other factor. I've become crazy. If you return the gun to me, I could use it in the most destructive way. And that's what I'm saying here. That every mitzvah, of course, has to be done. But before it is done, one has to consider whether that mitzvah is going to be done in the most effective and create the most positive effect or not. Now, it's true not for every mitzvah. I think that each time you give charity, whether it's good or bad, and the clothing are there or not, I think most probably it's a positive thing. So maybe not every mitzvah, but you do have to have the wisdom to carry out the mitzvahs with their garments. Otherwise, you have to rethink it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. No, it's a good point. Very good point. That's how religious fanaticism, as they call it, comes about. People don't think about the garments of the mitzvahs. One of my favorite verses by Maimonides is כשם שמצווה לומר דבר שנשמע, כך מצווה שלא לומר דבר שלא נשמע. Which means that just as it is a mitzvah to say something that is heard, so too it is a mitzvah not to say something that cannot be heard. So sometimes you want to say something, but maybe
Yeah.
you shouldn't. And that also is a mitzvah. Yeah.
If I need a gun, I know where to go now.
Sorry?
If I need a gun, I know who to ask. Didn't know you had a gun.
But even charity can have complications. I had a friend or an acquaintance who was always getting himself in trouble with addiction, with drugs.
Mm.
And he came to me and he said, I have nowhere. I'm in a hotel. They're going to throw me out if you don't give me $100 right now. I need the $100. So I'm at the point where, and I did give him the $100, and then it felt like the wrong thing to do because I know with that $100 he was going to get drugs with it. But I don't,
No, that's right. No, you're right. Even with tzedakah, sometimes you have to be careful. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, that's right.
I feel like
Maybe I'm just trying to think. Maybe every mitzvah needs that level of consideration. I'm trying to think if there's a mitzvah that doesn't need that level of consideration. Maybe prayer, it's more personal. I'm not sure. But you're right. Tzedakah, certainly, yes, you're right. Does need that level of consideration. Look, I'll say this also that I think this is also why I was actually with university students who were interviewing me last week at this JLI retreat. And one of the questions was, how do you know that you're doing the right thing? You know, so many people tell us these days to do this and to do that, to get involved with this, to get involved with that. So how do you know that you're doing the right thing? That's more or less the same idea here. How do you know that this mitzvah is effective or not? And I gave multiple answers, but one of them is very clear. It's from the Ethics of Our Fathers that says, "Aseh lecha rav, ukneh lecha chaver." And that's pretty powerful, which means make for yourself a mentor. If you're in a state of doubt, then ask a mentor, and then ask a good friend. And very often we may think one way, but our mentor thinks another way. I mean, there's many examples I can give you with Rabbi Steinsaltz. I thought this was good, and he thought no, maybe not. I remember so powerfully and so wisely that actually not too long ago, about 6 years ago, this young teenager came up to him and said, Rabbi, I don't know if you think this is a good idea, but um, I'm engaged in whatever in maybe I shouldn't even mention it because I don't know if this person wants me to mention it. But anyway, Rabbi Steinsaltz so cleverly took him out of the idea and said to him, not now, do this later. It wasn't such a good idea, and I'm not going to say what it was, but not now, do this later. Uh, and in the meantime, though, you know, focus on A, B, and C, and which is somehow connected to the idea that he presented. So sometimes your mentor will be able to see the big picture and then dissect it and say, you know what, particle A is good, but particle B is not good. So you need a mentor really to be able to to see that big picture sometimes. I think that's one method of ensuring that your mitzvah is the right garment. Okay. Let's continue. Let's continue. Bottom of page 72. Unless there's more comments or ideas, please feel free to share them. Okay. Susan, you want to continue? Bottom of the
Sure.
page. Thank you.
And even if he is naturally disposed to be an assiduous student, the author notes that his words apply not only to a Benoni who is serving God, but even to a Benoni who is not serving. As the last chapter described, someone apathetic yet intellectually inclined, comfortably ensconced in a Jewish lifestyle and studying Torah, who neither knows nor wishes to know anything else, may from time to time imagine himself to be a perfect tzaddik. The author explained that not only is such a person not a tzaddik at all, he is not even one who is serving God.
Mm.
The author adds, nevertheless, though at first glance his service of God does not stem from love and awe, but rather from habit, were it not for those two attributes, he would naturally love his body more.
Mm.
He would be occupied with his physical needs. Though intellectual by nature and relishing Torah study, he still must decide what, which way, and how much to learn. And these choices are rooted in his service in whatever measure of love and awe he possesses. Whatever is lacking in his service to God, these qualities elevate him beyond the level of plain existence.
Right. So for some people, learning Torah is just in line with their nature. They love, engaging in intellectual activities, so they study Torah. But at the end of the day, that type of study is not only very selfish, but it certainly doesn't transform because it's completely in line with your natural inclination to study. So you're not connecting with God, you're connecting with yourself, with your nature. You're not satisfying a relationship, you're satisfying your ego, your intellectual needs. So and one may think I'm studying Torah all day long, so I'm a tzaddik. Wow. But nothing has really been elevated within yourself, transformed within yourself. Nothing has considered God in this relationship. You've only considered yourself. And that's where the Tanya is brutally seeking truth here, that everyone has to ask themselves, okay, I'm doing this mitzvah. I'm studying this part of the Torah. Am I doing it just for myself? Is it just for me to feel good, to just exercise my natural abilities? Or is it really because I'm doing it for God? And when I take upon myself a mitzvah or a type of Torah study that challenges me, like waking up so early in the morning to be in the soul study, then you know that you are really engaging in a true relationship with God. Then you're doing it for God and not for just for yourself. And that's really what the Beinoni is. Person who does it only for himself is not even at the level of the Beinoni. But if you really want to transform yourself, elevate yourself, you got to do something that is for the relationship, for God, that is altruistic, that challenges you. And this is what this is saying. And I think, again, this connects to what we were speaking about before. You have to have sometimes mentors who can guide you towards those mitzvahs, not just mitzvahs that can be effective and have the right garments, but mitzvahs that can truly nurture you and your relationship and elevate you to ensure that this relationship is really a divine one that empowers and elevates. Someone that can see the big picture. And I think that is very much connected to the month that we're about to enter, the Hebrew month that we're about to enter, the month of Elul, in exactly, I think, 7 days from today. The month of Elul has been designated in the Jewish calendar as the month of introspection. We have to ask ourselves, okay, a year has gone by. We're about to celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Have we changed in any way? Have we elevated ourselves in any way? Have we done something that is purely and altruistically for God, for His world, for His people? Or is everything really that I'm doing might be good, but is it just for me? Has it really transformed me? Sometimes during that introspection, you need that person that can see the great picture. There's a great parable in the Midrash that speaks about, if we've ever mentioned it, but speaks about three people that are carving a rock. They're doing the exact same thing. They're in the street carving a rock, and someone passes by and goes to the first guy and says, "What are you doing?" The guy says, "Well, can't you see I'm carving a rock?" He goes to the second guy and he says, "What are you doing?" Now, again, he's doing the exact same thing. But the second guy says, "Well, I'm making a living." And then he goes to the third guy, who's doing the exact same thing. And he says, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a palace." Now, these are three people doing the same thing, but with three very different perspectives. I would say the third one is the Beinoni. You could say, "Oh, I'm carving a rock. I'm hating what I'm doing, but I got to do it." The second one is making a living, so it's for him. But from time to time, you have to say, "Well, what am I doing that's really building a palace?" That could be the same mitzvah, but you just have to change the intention, change the attitude, the approach, and make it challenge you too. And then you're building a palace together with God. That's a whole different type of life. Life is so much more elevating and spiritual and divine. And that's what the Beinoni does time and time again. Yes, sometimes he's not in the mood. Sometimes he doesn't want to do the mitzvah. Sometimes he does, but he feels that it's selfish. So he says, "Okay, how can I do it in the most selfless way? How can I do it for God? Whether I feel like it or not." And that's really what transforms a person in life altogether. You could have the same person that for 70, 80, 90, 100 years does what his natural abilities can do. But then he didn't really transform himself because he's just doing what his body, what his natural inclinations want him to do. Yeah, we're asked to go beyond the letter of the law, challenge ourselves, and and really include God in our relationship. And that is what makes us Beinonis.